Very good morning, dear students. Welcome to this class. Today we are going to continue the same topic that we have already started, and that is none other than figures of speech. Okay, and for your kind information, I would like to tell you that in our previous class we have started to deal with the figures of speech which are based on sound repetition. Okay, and in our last one class we have dealt with alliteration. Okay, and as I told you, alliteration is the figure of speech where the initial sound, look at the beginning sound of a word is repeated. Beginning sound of a word is repeated two or more times. Yes, or it is repeated in two or more words in the same line. That is called alliteration. Yes, for example, she sails at the seashore. S and sh, the initial sounds are repeated in the same line. Yes, so now in our today's class we are going to see the few other figures of speech which are also based on the repetition of sound. Okay, so now look at the another one, that is repetition. Look at the another one figure of speech, that is repetition. Okay, so what is repetition? It is a repeating. Look at some points I have mentioned here to make you clear. It is a repeating of a word or phrase. Look at there. In alliteration we have seen the repetition of initial sound of a word in two or more words. Okay, but here it is repetition of a word or phrase, not of initial sound. ये initial sound का repetition नहीं है. This is the repetition of a word or phrase. जो पूरा कंप्लीट वर्ड है उस कंप्लीट का या फिर पूरी फ्रेज का रिपीटेशन तुम्हें दिखाई देगा इन दिस फिगर ऑफ स्पीच रिपीटेशन. While in alliteration, just repetition of the beginning sound of a word. किसी शब्द के beginning sound का repetition वहां दिखाई देगा, but here the whole word is repeated, the whole word, or there may be phrases. पूरा का पूरा फ्रेज भी रिपीट हुआ तुम्हें दिख सकता है, और समटाइम्स वर्ड्स पूरा का पूरा वर्ड ही रिपीट दिखाई देगा. दिस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन द बोथ फिगर्स ऑफ स्पीच, alliteration and repetition. Got it? Initial sound, alliteration. Whole word or phrase, that is repetition. Okay, again the use, or why does it use? So reason is use mainly for emphasis and memorability. emphasis उसे ज़्यादा फोकस करने के लिए, स्ट्रेस देने के लिए, साथ ही साथ याद करने में आसान हो, इन चीज़ों को ध्यान में रखते हुए that figure of speech is used. Repetition. Okay, for memorability and for emphasis and to give stress or focus. Got it? So for this reason repetition is used by poet in their poems. Okay, now let's see some examples of repetition. So look at that, tiger. This example we have already seen in alliteration. Okay, but there we have seen the repetition of initial sound, burning bright, b sound. Yes, but here tiger burning bright. So look at that, the whole word is repeated there. Tiger, tiger. Yes, like the another famous one poem, Captain, oh Captain, Captain, oh Captain, my Captain. There the word captain is repeated so many times. So that is also repetition. Yes. Look at again another example. These big stairs led up to a big house. To a big house with a big front door. With a big front door. So look at that. In this sentence, what is repeated there? What is repeated? Yes, you are correct. What is repeated? The word big. The word big. This word big is repeated there. So it is repetition. It is repetition. When you find a word or phrase is repeated in the same line 2 or more times, that is called repetition. Got it? Look at another example. And miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. The whole clause is repeated here. Yes, means word, phrase or clause can be repeated. Okay, means if you find the repetition of a word, a phrase or a clause, that will be called repetition. That will be called repetition. Okay, so this figure of speech is called repetition. If you find repeating of a word or phrase or clause, it will be called repetition. Got it? Alliteration we have done already. After that we are going to see another one figure of speech which is also based on repetition, and that is anaphora. Anaphora. Okay, let's begin another one figure of speech, but before that do write it. Okay, so as I told you, the next one figure of speech is anaphora. Okay, so what is difference? What is difference between among alliteration, then repetition, and now anaphora? Okay, in alliteration we have seen repetition of initial sound. In repetition of a word or phrase, and here in anaphora it is also repetition of. Look at there. It is a repetition of a word or phrase. A word or phrase, as we have seen in repetition, but the difference is at the beginning of each phrase or clause. At the beginning of each phrase or clause. In next lines, in next हम जो बोलते हैं ना अगली पंक्तियां, जो मतलब एक के बाद जो पंक्ति आती है, एक के बाद एक जो सेंटेंसेस आते हैं, उन सेंटेंसेस में या फिर उस पंक्तियों में अगर वो शुरुआती में at the beginning, look at the word is mentioned, very important word is here, at the beginning of next lines. At the beginning of next lines, उसके बाद के आने वाली जो लाइंस होती है, अगर उन लाइंस में वो जो beginning words if they are found repeated, that is called anaphora. Okay, ऐसे में अगर रिपीट में दिखाई दे तो उसे हम कहेंगे anaphora. But look at the examples. By looking at the examples you can easily understand the anaphora. Okay, look at there. She looked to the left, she looked to the right, she looked straight ahead. Look at there, these two words, she looked, she looked. These words are repeated in next lines. उसके बाद जो आने वाली है, and that is again at the beginning, शुरुआत में ही repeat होना चाहिए. At the beginning, if such words are repeated in every next following lines or each lines at the beginning, this figure of speech will be called anaphora. Got it? शुरुआती वर्ड्स, हर लाइन के अगर शुरुआती वर्ड्स अगर तुम्हें रिपीट दिखाई दे, so that will be called anaphora. And again, another best example is from where the mind is without fear. Where the mind is without fear, where knowledge is free, where word is repeated so many times in the throughout the line, throughout the poem, throughout the poem, where word is repeated at the beginning of the whole entire poem. So there is also anaphora. Anaphora is there again in that poem, where the mind is without fear. Okay, so look at again another example. Your eyes behind your veil are doves, your hair like a flock of goats, your teeth are like a flock of sheep. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep. So look at there, the word your. This word is repeated at the beginning of each line. Yes, so if you find such repetitions, that will be called anaphora. Got it? Understood? Do write fast this figure of speech. Then we will see the next one, that is refrain. Okay, do write fast. So now let's begin our another one figure of speech, that is refrain. Refrain, as I told you, it is also based on the repetition. Okay, लेकिन देखो difference क्या है? Alliteration, repetition, then anaphora, and now refrain. Okay, so what is given there in refrain? In refrain you will find it is a repetition of a line. ओके, यहां पर भी तुम्हें रिपीटिशन दिखाई देगा, बट रिपीटिशन ऑफ अ लाइन. ओके, अ सेट और अ ग्रुप ऑफ लाइंस. एक तो तुम्हें एक लाइन रिपीट दिखाई दे सकती है, एक सेट या फिर एक ग्रुप ऑफ लाइंस जो कहा गया है, अ ग्रुप ऑफ लाइंस एट द एंड ऑफ. लेकिन यहां देखो इंपॉर्टेंट क्या चीज है, एज वी हैव सीन इन anaphora, at the beginning of next lines. Okay, एक लाइन के बाद आने वाली जो उसके बाद की जो लाइंस होती है उसके बिगिनिंग में अगर रिपीटिशन दिखाई देता है, so that is anaphora. But here the repetition of a line, एक लाइन का रिपीटिशन दिखाई देगा, but where? At the end of stanza, at the end of each stanza we can say. ये बेटर रहेगा कि at the end of each stanza, हर एक स्टांजा के एंड में तुम्हें उसका वो पर्टिकुलर लाइन का रिपीटिशन दिखाई देगा. That will be called refrain. Besides, look at there, or where a poem divides into different sections. A poem divides into different sections. एक किसी पोएम को डिफरेंट सेक्शन में जहां डिवाइड होती है, देयर यू विल फाइंड द रिपीटिशन ऑफ पर्टिकुलर लाइन, एंड दैट विल बी कॉल्ड रिफ्रेन. एंड द बेस्ट एग्जाम्पल इज already given there in your poem of class 9, that is the duck and the kangaroo. Go through the poem, the duck and the kangaroo. There you will find the best example of this figure of speech, refrain. Okay, only one stanza I have written here. The remaining stanzas you can see in the book. Okay, in your textbook, there you will find. Okay, look at there. Said the duck to the kangaroo. Example, look at there. Said the duck to the kangaroo, good gracious, how you hop over the fields and water too, as if you never would stop. My life is a bore. My life is a bore in this nasty pond, and I long to go out in the world beyond. I wish I could hop like you, said the duck to the kangaroo. Said the duck to the kangaroo. This line, said the duck to the kangaroo. Okay, said the duck to the kangaroo. Said the duck to the kangaroo. This line is repeated many times in this poem. At the end of stanzas, or the point where the poem divides into different sections. Okay, so just go through the poem which is given in your textbook of class 9th, The Duck and the Kangaroo, and you can easily understand this figure of speech refrain. Okay, so this is refrain, and in our next one classes we will do another figures of speech. Okay, let's stop today here, but the homework is there for you, and the homework is find out the examples of the figures of speech that are done in our yesterday's class and today's class, and send me back the examples with their names, okay, to my WhatsApp contact number. Okay, bye bye, see you soon in our next video lecture. Keep watching my videos and enjoy the classes. Bye bye, see you.